And just in case you don't know who I am, my name is Dov Barron. I'm the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. I'm a leadership speaker, named by Inc. magazine as one of the top leadership speakers to hire in the world today. Very honored by that. And I'm also a leadership consultant and mentor, work with individuals and with companies and corporations and organizations to help them develop their leadership teams and help their organizations become more than purpose-driven. That's the term we use, is purpose-driven, but actually to find the soul of their business, to find the soul of what it is that they're doing and how they're doing it and how to make that work in the best possible way for them to feel like they can get the best possible outcome and the best possible outcome out of every person that they're working with. So, the art of subjective meaning. And why is that such an important communication skill? So, have you ever had a communication with somebody and really felt like they just didn't get you? Of course you have. We've all had that experience, right? You just feel like, wow, why don't they get this? This is so obvious. This is so simple. Who doesn't understand this? Everybody would understand this, right? You've all had that experience. Maybe you've had it with your lover. Maybe you've had it with your mother. Maybe you've had it with your kids. Maybe you've had it with your business partners. Maybe you've had it with an associate. Maybe you've had it with a peer. But we've all been through that experience of wondering why somebody doesn't get what it is we're saying. Now, as many of you know, I do, or we do, a lot of work with family businesses, meaning people who are in business, and we're not talking about mom and pop shops, we're talking about people who are second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th generation, often hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars worth of business. And very often there's a distinct difference between how one generation sees something and another generation sees something. Now, you will experience this, you'll know this even as, no matter how old you are, there's a good chance that at some point in time you had a parent who didn't understand you. And what's more is you had a parent who had no idea why you thought the things you thought, why you believed the things you believed, and you might have even had a good deal of conflict with them around those kinds of things. So we've all had that experience of having somebody not get us. But there's a deeper understanding of that, and that goes like this. In an example of working with a family business and looking at the next generation, think about this word. I want you to think about this word. I'm going to give you a word, and I want you to think about this word, and I want you to think about what it means to you. Okay? And if you're walking along with me here right now, if you're following along with what I'm saying, I want you to take out a pen and paper, or if you can type it, whatever it is you're doing, text it to yourself as a note. I want you to write down the meaning of the word fight. What does to fight mean to you? What does that word mean? Just give yourself a minute to identify the meaning of that word. What does the word fight mean to you? Now, for some people, it means this. It means fisticuffs, right? For other people, it means loud languaging with each other. For other people, it means something else altogether. I don't want to give you too many clues because I don't want to actually interfere with or give you a meaning around that word that's not your own. It's really important that you find your own meaning, right? Plow through. Good one, Lisa. What does fight mean? What does the word fight mean? And so here's the next thing. Whatever it is you got there about the meaning of that word, here's the next question. Is the meaning always the same? So you've got the word fight and you've given it a meaning, but is the meaning always identical? Does the meaning change? In a certain environment, for you, I'm not talking about generally. For you, are there times when the word fight means something else? So, for instance, are you fighting with your partner? And is that different than fighting for your relationship? You get the distinction? Does the word fight always mean the same thing? Now, we're just using the word fight. It could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. What does the word mean for you? So Lisa's just put the meaning changes for others, but not for myself. That's interesting, and I'll tell you why. Because if you look at the context of a situation, you might want to shift the meaning. You see, I'm happy to, willing to, fully willing to step into fighting for something that really matters to me. I have no interest in fighting with somebody. And where we get into conflicts around these kinds of things is because we have a fixed meaning. And what do I mean by that? It means that we're holding a meaning as absolute. If you want to look at the conflict in your life, whether it's with a partner, whether it's a business partner or a relational partner, with your children, with your friends, whatever it is, it's wherever you've got a fixed and absolute meaning around something. Does that make sense? Think about that for a moment. If you think about any conflict that's going on in your life, where you're not making progress, that block is coming from a place of having rigidity, of holding an absolute meaning around something, rather than having a contextual meaning around something. Rather than being willing to understand that your subjective meaning for a word may not be the same as somebody else's. If you want to have better communication skills, if you want to understand people better, if you want other people to understand you better, then understand that all meaning is subjective. And just because you go, well, of course it means that, does not mean that of course it means that. It means of course it means that to you. So when you hit such a block with somebody, the important thing to do is, instead of making them wrong or even making yourself wrong, which is often what we do, ask a simple question. What does that mean to you? I feel like we're always fighting. What does that mean to you? I feel like we've always got to get into a fight about these things. What does that mean to you? I feel like you're not fighting for this relationship. What does that mean to you? Thinking about the subjective meaning, because here's the next level of this communication skill that I want to teach you. If something has a subjective meaning, which it does, everything does, then you've got value on that subjective meaning. So you've assigned value to the subjective meaning you have. So, for instance, working with a family business, working with the president of that company, who grew up in a struggled environment, the word fight has a subjective meaning of great value for that person, because it means that they overcame the odds, they overcame the obstacles, they were the champion, they made it happen, nothing got in their way. It has great, powerful meaning. But guess what? Not everybody in that person's team sees fight that way. And what's more is, because that person has placed so much value on it, they will bring fight to things that don't need to be fought for. And they'll bring the fight not with ill intention, not with the reason of making the other person wrong, but with the purpose, with the value that it's not worth anything unless we fought for it. And then the rest of the people are walking away feeling like a bit beat up and a bit like it's too much. It was like it was too hard. And the person who has all that meaning around it, who's allowed all that value around that particular meaning, they feel like, oh, it was great, we had a fabulous meeting. The other person's feeling devastated, exhausted, and oh my God, this is just so hard. So in the art of subjective meaning as a communication skill, you have to ask, what does that mean to you? And your best place to start that is guess where? You guessed it, with yourself. So what I want you to do is what I'm going to challenge you to do is to take out a pen, take out a paper, take out a notepad, take out your keyboard, whatever it is, and write down some words that for you that are, quote, hot words. And what I mean by that, words that are highly charged, positively or negatively, doesn't matter, actually either way is fine. But what are words that, like, yes, that's an important word to me, or like that when somebody says that word, it really gets to me. What are the hot words for you? And then write down the subjective meaning for that word. Because if it's a hot word, it has a powerful emotional context for you. It has a subjective meaning for you. And here's the thing, if it is a hot word and it's highly charged, positively or negatively, there's a very good chance that you're going to put that onto other people. Now remember, I just used fight as an example. It could be any word. I want you to think about the word for you. What is the hot word for you? And like I said, you've got many, we all do. But write down what is the subjective meaning of that word. And then ask yourself, I wonder if that's the same subjective meaning for other people. Right? So Lisa just wrote, hot word for me, retarded. Right? So if somebody says the word retarded to Lisa, that is going to bring up her emotions. It's going to get her charged. But what is the subjective meaning? And of course, Lisa will have a subjective meaning for that word. Now, if you're interacting with somebody else and they use that word, there's a good chance that it has a completely different subjective meaning for them, that it has a completely different charge for them. Right? So if you actually look up the dictionary of that word retarded, it means held back. That something was retarded, it was held back. It doesn't mean particularly pertaining to a mental state. But the subjective meaning will be deeply ingrained inside of an individual. So this is the key for you in this communication skill, is look at what are the hot words for you, what is the subjective meaning of those hot words, and then get to a place of going, okay, if that word is a hot word for me, if that has a hot charge for me, is that true for other people? And of course the answer is no. And so when you find yourself getting charged around somebody else, around somebody's communication using a hot word for you, that allows you to go, okay, I wonder what their subjective meaning is for that word. That's the art of subjective meaning as a communication skill, and allowing you to be a much better communicator, allowing you to have a lot better relationships with yourself and with others. So before I go, I'm going to flip back and we're going to see what we've got for questions and statements. And if you've got any questions or statements, let's get to those and we'll see what comes up. And I know that I've addressed a few of them as they've come up, but let's see. So Lisa said the word plow through, as we talked about. Lisa said, fight, go to the wall. Go to the wall for myself. Go to the wall for others who are equally willing to go to the wall for themselves. Fabulous. Fighting for Carrie, she says, let's just get that to open up. She says, fighting for what matters a lot more to me versus fighting with someone for the same. Shifts the conversation, i.e., I am creating this thing for myself. Are you interested in supporting that? My fight, if I can't, and then it cuts off, I'm sorry. Okay, so really taking a look at these. These are really, by the way, those are great examples, so thank you very much. Appreciate you jumping in on that. So the art of subjective meaning, taking a look at the words that come up as hot words for you, and just as importantly, not more importantly, but just as importantly, what is the value you put on that word? Because sometimes if you have a hot word, you have a word that has a ton of meaning for you, then you'll have value on that word and you'll insert that word sometimes where it's least appropriate, sometimes where it causes damage because you value it so highly. You know, if you grew up in an environment where you had to fight for what mattered, then yeah, of course, you want to be fighting. You want to, because that's going to send a message to yourself that you're doing something that is meaningful. But that's not necessarily true for everybody else. It may be something completely different for other people. But it allows you to see that, allows you to see how you might be getting in your own way, or you might be interfering in relationships that don't mean those things for you. So fight was the example, but what I want you to do is to look at the words that are relevant for you. What are the words that are hot words for you? Then write down the subjective meaning for each of those words, and just check, just ask around, because I promise you, you'll be holding it as, well, everybody knows that. I guarantee you that's not the case, that everybody is not holding the same subjective meaning as you are. We all hold different subjective meanings. And then start looking for where you insert that word. In other words, you give it value, it matters to you, where it probably doesn't. So till next time, this is Dov Baron, fullmontyleadership.com. You can find me right there, fullmontyleadership.com. You can also find my podcast on iTunes, Dov Baron Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives. We're the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and for leaders. It's a really great show, and I really recommend that you go there. You're going to find some really great value in that. If you found this show valuable, please give us the icons, hit those thumbs up, give us the hearts if this has been valuable to you. Really appreciate that. Let me know by hitting those icons. I know there's about a 7-second delay in you letting me know, but if it was valuable to you, I really appreciate it. Please share it. And here's the other thing. Please hit that share button there. Let your friends, your fans, your followers know about the show, know about what it is we shared. I really believe that we need to share the wealth, and I'm giving this to you so that you can make a difference in your own life. But you know what? I'm going to impact you by you watching this, but you're going to impact somebody else by you sharing it with others. Let's make a difference in the world by sharing the wealth. Till next time, this is Dov Baron saying, stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about the subjective value and the subjective meaning you've given to things that maybe you need to tweak a little bit. So next time, this is Dov Baron, fullmontyleadership.com, and I am out.